Hi, this is John again, the owner and developer of VecorDecks. In this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and design a custom set of rails for this sun deck utilizing the frame's sun deck rail settings button with the custom settings option. I covered how to work with all these different dimension changes and options in this window in my custom settings tutorial. But now let's go ahead and put them to work. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and create a wrought iron type railing system, something lighter in appearance here. I'm going to keep the railing height at 36. No need to change those post max on center and keep those the same. Now the post on a iron type railing, it could be smaller because of the strength involved, so I'm going to downsize these to 2 inches. And the 2-inch width, 2-inch depth. The top rail width, it needs to fit within those 2 inches, so I'm gonna narrow this down to, let's say, 1.5 inches, 1.5. And its depth, I'll leave that alone. The bottom rail width, the same thing. It generally needs to be the same or smaller than the top. Let's go ahead and make that the same as the top. I'll leave its depth the same. I'm also going to leave that opening at the bottom of the rail the same. Now the vertical pickets themselves and an iron type railing, they could be quite a bit smaller. Let's make those 3/4 inch. And I'm going to maintain that maximum picket opening to 3 5/8. Now we're ready to apply that change. You go ahead and click Apply Dimensions, and you see it popped up with a very light type of a metal railing. Now let's go ahead and apply these changes to the railing here in the sun deck document. Just all you need to do here is click OK. If you click Cancel, it'll go back to its defaults. So I'm going to click OK, and there's a lot of changes because it's going to change the railings throughout the entire deck. As you see there, it's got that lighter metal iron type of appearance to the sun deck. And because each rail object and steps had its use deck info checked, the frame settings automatically updated the rails throughout the entire deck. That's the advantage of having that rail control in the sun deck frame settings. Now let's go back into that settings and let's change the color to that rail. Let's give it a black iron look. And as I explained before, you can go ahead and change each individual color, or up here you can just select to change everything on the rail to have the same color. Let's make this black. Now that looks like an iron rail. I'm going to click OK. Now it'll regenerate and render everything with a black railing system. It stands out. So it's that simple to create a custom rail, make those simple modifications, and have it apply to the entire deck all in one operation. Now there's one other thing I added to that custom settings capability with the frame tool, is the ability to insert in the center of any of the panels along the deck surface a special little design to break up, let's say, the monotony of all these vertical pickets. I'm going to show you how that works. Go ahead and click on that frame again and click on the sun deck rail settings. And up here in the top you had 2 other options that I showed in other tutorials, but we're working in the custom settings. These 2, if you click on it while your custom settings is being worked on, you'll see a lot of the options are grayed out. To utilize those, you'd have to click on Use Real Objects. And as you noticed here right away, as soon as I clicked on that, it picked up the settings of those 2 other options. But let's leave that clicked off. Now there's one option in the rail objects that you do have access to, and that's at the bottom here where it says Rail Center Objects. Now you can go ahead and click inside this particular drop-down menu, and you'll see you have some options here. I only have 2 for now, one of each for 36-inch rails and one of each for 42, but I'll be adding more, and you can add your own custom designs, and I'll teach you how to insert those so you have access to them. We'll leave that one by default. If you want to insert it, this is where you're going to go ahead and click on that rail setting objects. See, well, one click, it's going to show you what it looks like in these views. It also adjusts the pickets if it need be. If your center finish is wider or narrower, it'll adjust that automatically. And you can also set that color. We had black. Now the next button you see here is to apply this to all rail centers. If you leave this unchecked and go into your document, nothing will change. It'll stay the same. You won't see any of that finish because it doesn't understand or doesn't know where to physically install them. You will have those controls when you click on each individual rail. But for now, we're going to go ahead and click on all rail centers. Once you're satisfied with this, go ahead and click OK. After it regenerates here, you'll see that that particular fancy little finish will show up in every single panel across the deck surface. Now, some cases, this little tiny panel in here may at times, or as you design your rail systems, you may have some panels that are so small that that particular pattern won't fit. I'll show you here. Let's go back to that rail again. So we're going to go to Sundeck Rail Settings and go to that rail objects. This particular pattern is narrow enough to fit in that one little space. But if we change that, this one here is just slightly wider, and click OK, you'll see it won't get inserted in this little rail because VecorDecks knows not to insert any of those finishes if the width of that finish is too wide to insert it into that rail system properly. In my next tutorial, I'll show you how you can custom select which one of these rail sections across the surface of the deck will actually get that fancy little finish inserted into its centers.